Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. The Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts is proudly sponsored by the Global Wellness HQ community. It's an online membership group where we meet, we share ideas, we share insights, and we all work together and help one another discover our own personal wellness journeys. If you'd like to join us, you can easily click the link below or scan the QR code, and we love hearing your stories, so we hope to see you in the community.
Welcome back. Today I'm excited to have Linda McDougall on the show. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, I am a senior and my clients are seniors. I am a senior health advocate, a senior massage therapist. I have a master's in counseling psychology. So I cover wellness from several different angles. I'm also a holistic health practitioner. But my audience, my people are the seniors because I feel they're kind of a forgotten bunch.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, let's just jump right in then. So you talked about you work with seniors. What exactly do you help them with?
Pain, misalignment, posture. I have a course on mastermind.com on the vices of mobility devices. This is about preventing or limiting the daily pain and disfigurement of misuse of mobility devices, walkers, wheelchairs, canes, all that.
Right. Well, let's just jump into some fun on that. So tell me about the misuse. What does that mean exactly to you?
Oh, during the pandemic, I always thought that the misuse I was seeing in my local area was fairly localized. I found out during the pandemic it is nationwide. I did a lot of podcasts during that period, and it stunned me that people who worked with Paralympics didn't see the disparity between what these people had and what seniors had available to them, and the different gadgets and things that they need and they don't get usually. Anyway, as far as misuse, I see misadjustment or no adjustment. They buy it off of Amazon or someplace else, and they don't realize that it has to be sized for them and their gait and their walk and their posture. So I see people with all sorts of odd issues where I'm connected in my private Facebook group, Senior Caregivers Moments of Clarity. I'm connected with a home that I have personally never been to, but they posted some pictures of this woman with this walker. And I gingerly, since I don't know them, said, you do realize that that walker is too high for her? And they came back and said, oh, she wants it higher. I said, no, lower.
Well, that's an interesting thing because I think, I've seen some mobility stores here, and like you said, it's, people are buying it on Amazon, people are walking into these stores, walking out, and then, there's probably, especially walkers, I'm thinking, there's a perfect height where it optimizes mobility, whereas the non-perfect height, I'm going to guess it's going to cause slip and fall issues. There's going to be some more pain issues. What are the
Lots more
biggest
pain.
consequences there?
Lots more pain. This particular woman had it too high, so her shoulders are up, her elbows are out. That impairs the neck, that impairs the back, the shoulders, the wrists, the arms, everything. And eventually, because those are in the wrong position, it's going to cause a lot of pain. It may not immediately, but think about going around like this half the day. You
Your
know?
shoulders up around your ears.
Exactly. And this woman, I have 3 videos that were made for me for my course, my book, and my services. And the woman who did those, I explained to her what I was seeing in the video, and she goes, I can't find any pictures of the correct usage.
Wow.
So here we have my videos showing a lot of the wrong use because she could find nothing better.
Right.
And that's the problem. It's all over. If you get pictures off the internet, you're getting a lot of bad ones because they don't know any better. You want your canes and your walkers. You need first to stand up at your best height, your tallest and best. And then you need that handle to come to your wrist. You shouldn't be doing like this.
Yeah.
That's not to your wrist. And you should not be hanging over. That's not to your wrist.
So basically you should be able to stand up straight and
Exactly.
and your wrists reach the handle.
Exactly. It's not meant to grab. It's meant to support you as you walk. You don't have to lean on it. In fact, you shouldn't if you can avoid it. Because again, that puts pressure on your wrists and your arms and everything else. If you're having to do that, you might consider an upright walker.
Right.
I don't
And
know
I
if
think
you've seen those.
you know, up in Canada, we have ice and snow to contend with. Not all of the United States does, but one of the things I study angles, I study physics. If you have the wrong angle, that walker can slip right out, and you know it becomes a liability, not just a, you know, it's not something to lean on. If you're doing it wrong, it's going to be dangerous. So what's some of the advice you give to people other than, you know, obviously how to fit the right walker, but what are some of the other pieces of advice you would give people when they're looking at mobility devices? Like where should they be shopping? Who should be helping them with the, you know, the fitting of it? So like
Physical therapists can help in the old days, and I'm 74, so I know about some of the old days. In the old days, lots of people knew how to fit you. These days, you can go into a medical supply store and you can either get somebody who's very bright, knows what they're doing, or you can get somebody that shoves you out the door with the wrong thing.
Right.
I had a 6-foot tall client, female. I went to her apartment to give her a massage one day, met her at the door. She just came in from buying a new aluminum walker and she was bent all over it. And I said, let's get you in and we'll see about adjusting it for you.
Yeah.
Got her in. It was already adjusted to its full height, which was for me, and I'm 5'4" something. So I just looked at her and I said, you are lucky because you have money.
Yeah.
Throw this away or give it away, do something to it, but it's not for you. Go out and find something that works for you. And I explained to her how to do that. And she did it and it worked wonderfully. But that would have hurt her forever.
Yeah.
Just why would somebody from a medical supply company send you out with something like that? Because they want money and they don't care.
Yep. Well, and I think a lot of people don't recognize, you know, like I've been, you know, at local stores and, you know, they say a cane is a cane is a cane. Well, no.
No. There are a lot of different kinds of canes, not only kinds, but sizes, adjustability, non-adjustable. You have to know what you're getting and have somebody at least help you if you don't know.
I love that. So on the topic of canes, because that's probably in my world the first mobility device a lot of people I know start with. What are some of your thoughts on? You mentioned there's a bunch of different types of canes. How does somebody pick a cane, or who can help somebody pick a cane?
Well, again, a physical therapist, some massage therapists, I can help, but I don't know how many other massage therapists know that. But physical therapists should know that and should be able to help. Again, the medical supply stores used to have people in there that would size everything for people and help them get whatever it is they needed. But I'm not finding that always the case, like with my 6 foot tall female.
Right. So how can somebody, like, again, how can the lay person, the average senior, how can they spot the well-meaning but completely unqualified person who's going to help them versus okay, this is the person I listen to? Like, how do we spot the fakers from the rest of the community?
That's a hard one because you have to know, again, you have to be the advocate for yourself. So unfortunately, that's the way life is in a lot of things these days. You have to be the knowledgeable one. So again, know that it should come to your wrist. You should be standing upright and it should just be supporting you, not something you have to lean on particularly. Oh God. Anyway, can you hear that?
Nope.
Oh, good. Okay. We're having remodeling done next door, so here we go. Anyway, so you have to be really careful about who you talk to. And again, physical therapists are probably some of the best for this because that's what they study. That's what they should know about. But you've got to know enough so that you know if you run into somebody who's just trying to shove you out the door with an inappropriate device. It's just the way it is these days. And I hate to say that, but it is.
So a little bit of buyer beware, and my 2 cents would be, find somebody who's really happy with their device if you need something similar, and ask where they got it, who helped them buy it. I feel like there's almost an entire industry that needs to be reintroduced, and that it used to be like these things, you went to a qualified licensed person to get these things. Maybe there's such a thing as being too available. I mean, it's one thing if you need a replacement cane, but when you're buying your first cane, that should almost come from somebody who knows the language and can, if I need a specialty shoe for running, for example, I don't go to the local cheapest place for a shoe. I go to a specialty store and I expect them to know something about the shoe I'm looking for.
And that's the medical supply stores usually. I know Medicare down here licenses, I think, only 2 medical supply stores here in the county to carry wheelchairs, for example. Medicare is all divided, and so different medical supply stores are licensed to carry different things. So it's kind of odd, but they don't seem to oversee the qualifications of the people who are selling the items. And that has left our seniors in grave danger.
I feel like that's a book. Like,
it's a course.
Okay, so Linda has a course. Good. Let's talk about the course. So when it comes to mobility devices, what would you say are the three biggest mistakes you see people making over and over and over, and you'd love them to take your course and correct?
One of them is exactly kind of what I've said, that misadjustments, so that this is a walker, by the way, I'm talking about, so that their tail is in the wind. And it is. I see that all the time.
Yeah.
I see some people walking like this with walkers, like that's the way you're supposed to do it.
With your elbows up around their shoulders.
Well, just their arms crossed and just leaning on it with both their arms crossed.
Yeah.
It's really odd. It's like they're with a shopping cart or something going.
I was gonna say, it reminds me of when my kids were young, and that's how they'd push the shopping cart. So
Yeah. And that's what some people do with their walkers. And it is, again, not correct, and it will hurt you, even if your mobility device is correctly adjusted. If you're using it wrong, it doesn't do you any good.
So I'm going to throw in my 2 cents here, but the reality is, for our listeners who are listening to this, one of the first questions I would ask somebody if I'm in a store and I'm looking at it is, how do I know if this is the properly adjusted for me? If they don't give you a good answer, I'd probably turn around and walk out. The other would be, what are the risks of using this incorrectly, or how might I use this incorrectly? That's one of the things I find fascinating is, when we're going towards younger employees, we're trying to cut costs. It's really hard to take somebody in their 20s seriously, helping a senior with a mobility device.
Yes, I would have a hard time with that too, unless, of course, they were a physical therapist. Again, they are probably the most qualified. Now, you can get people who don't know what they're doing there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one reason I wrote my book too, because people don't understand about seniors a whole lot, especially if they're really young, because their body's fine. Everything works for them.
Yep.
And I wanted people to hear from a senior about seniors, so that they got a better feel for who we are, what we go through, and what we need. But yeah, the tail in the wind is a big one, because that's going to hurt your back, shoulders, neck, all that, all over again. I used to have a client that I would come up behind her when I saw her walking and just push her butt gently in, because you're supposed to walk just inside and outside of the walker, not with your tail out in the wind and your legs in the way far behind you. The whole idea is for these devices to support you in an upright position. If you cannot walk in an upright position, then maybe you should think of an upright walker rather than a regular walker. The upright walkers support the body in an upright position. They've got slots for your arms, or at least your forearms, depends on which kind you get, but there's a couple of different upright walkers that would be far better for you than the other, if you cannot maintain an upright position.
I love it. And I think the other question I would encourage people to ask is, what are your qualifications to help me purchase this thing? If they say, well, I passed the interview, turn around and just leave the store. They should have some level of expertise, or at the very least, a high degree of compassion. I love helping seniors do this. There should be some experience there, rather than I put in a resume and they hired me. There should be that level of background, right?
Well, the interesting thing is I had to train myself, because I did not see people knowing what they were doing and telling these people things. So I learned so that I could. I have no degree for that. I have nothing. I have nothing other than I have learned by watching people and helping people and, reading and all that. So,
Well, I think that's a new trend where people, once upon a time we trusted the doctors, we trusted the experts, and now I'm hearing the rise of advocacy groups. I think more and more, as we get into this more complicated world, there are specialties, and I distrust the whole concept of a general practitioner because if you try to treat everybody, you're not good at any of their things. It's I trust a pediatric doctor over somebody who says, "Well, I can work on adults, kids, seniors." You want to understand the people and know that they understand their patients. What is your favorite advocacy resource? How have you learned how to advocate better for yourself?
again, I am constantly reading. Somebody will have a problem and I'll do a lot of study on it to find out what I can do for them. Like, for instance, when I first moved into this senior community I live in now, and this is a community of individual homeowners, so we're not in a home as such.
Yeah.
But I had a call real early before I ever really got myself settled in even. And this woman wanted to know if I knew about this medication. And I told her, no, I'd never heard of it, but I would do some research on it and I would let her know what I found. So I did the research on it. It was a muscle relaxant and it was new. And so I went to her home to explain it to her. And then she told me why she asked. She was a little tiny woman in this huge recliner that could have fit 2 or 3 of her. Her feet didn't even touch the ground. Now that's another whole subject, but that's bad furniture for somebody.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of that too. So she couldn't even touch the ground, and she had taken this pill and she had tried to get out of her chair and her legs just collapsed.
Oh, wow.
So she fell on the floor. That's why she wanted me to find out about the pill. Well, I ended up finding out that she was being given the same dosage as a football player would be given and the same intervals. And you have to think about seniors a bit differently because we don't digest as well. We don't metabolize as well. Things stay in our systems longer. So here she was given a potent dosage. The dosage is going to have at least a half-life. And if she's not clearing like a football player might, then
Yeah.
she's more in her system when the next pill comes in.
Right.
And so she became rubber. And
Wow.
she went down. So I had to explain that to her. And doctors often don't think about that, especially if they're a general practitioner.
Yeah.
And not somebody who knows seniors. But we have, and this is one of the things in my book, we have issues that need to be thought of beyond just what you see.
Yeah, there's an element of detective work in that because that's the thing. Most medications are handed out based on, the average population, but as we age, metabolism slow down, there's interesting that, I'm sure again, if you've got a young doctor who's fresh out of med school, they might have read somewhere, oh, check it out. But, unless you've got somebody who really works with a lot of seniors, they're not going to necessarily go straight to that and start backwards. Now, you've mentioned your book. What is the title of your book, and how can people find it?
It's the Spirit Method of Massage for Seniors, Raising the Bar, a primer for massage therapists and caregivers. And I put both. Caregivers encompasses everybody from executives down to the regular caregivers, because there's so much that even the executives don't understand about us, because they aren't quite there yet either, usually, or they haven't read what I've read or whatever.
Yep.
So, you know, I put different things in here, not only for massage therapists, but the caregivers need to know about massage therapists too, and massage therapy to some degree if their client is having that.
Right.
They need to know what we're doing. They don't have to watch. I got fired from a case one time because the caregiver was determined she had to watch, and my client said no. She wanted it to be private.
Right.
And the caregiver happened to be working with the distant relatives, meaning they were at a distance. And so they had to trust her. They didn't know me.
Yeah.
So I got fired because I wouldn't let her watch.
It's
But
interesting.
you just never know what you run into with seniors and caregivers and families. And, you know, it's a mixed bag.
You know, it's kind of a funny story, but a friend of mine lives in a seniors complex. It's private apartments, and it is fascinating because the average age of the residents is 77. The average age of the employees, the caregivers, is 30 something. And they have this wonderful fitness facility that the 30 something set up for them. And it is funny because they were complaining that, you know, we bought all this equipment, nobody's using it. Never once occurred to them that, you know, people probably don't want a stair climber, or, you know, they're not looking to lift, you know, big plates of heavy weights. And it was just funny because my friend, who is, you know, the youngest in the compound at 65, he walked into the office and he said, why are we wasting all of this space on, you know, like literally they had a full gym with big heavy equipment. And he was like, where's the mobility stuff? Where's the stretching? So it was kind of interesting, just the you know, the people who worked there had a good heart,
Yes.
and frankly a good budget, but again, didn't really stop and think. You know, they were like, wow, I wish I had access to a gym like this. And, you know, you should all be lucky and grateful. And, you know, meanwhile, the seniors are saying, what am I supposed to do with this stuff?
Well, this is one of the reasons I advocate for advocates in every one of those homes, because they don't think of things like that. And they really need to be talking to somebody that has a bit more age and experience on them to say, this isn't quite what most people are going to want or be able to use. A friend of mine, she and her ex-husband made something called the sand dune. And that thing is wonderful, but I can't get people interested in it. But it's great. And if you put a walker over it, because it fits inside of most walkers, you can stand on it. It's made of a foam, so it's like walking in sand, and it strengthens Parkinson's clients and others in a very easy to use manner. And it's funny because it's hard to tell people about that because they don't get it. And it's so simple and it's cheap, and here you go, you know?
Yeah. And I think that was the other interesting thing about this retirement community. A lot of the equipment required really good balance, and most of the seniors have, you know, inner ear issues, or, you know, just balancing issues. And It's like, who exactly is going to use that equipment?
Well, I know this is going to be audio eventually, but you can probably see that you can't see this eye as well as you can that one.
Yes.
That's because there's a piece of tape inside because I fell and damaged permanently that eye. And so if I don't have the tape there, I see double. And that tape takes away the extra vision, the extra image. So
Focus, right?
yeah, because it was really weird during the pandemic because I fell in 2020 right after the pandemic started. And I'd be on Zooms just like I am now, and I'd be watching or listening or whatever, and then all of a sudden the whole group would just come charging at me. It looked like it was really a strange thing. So I had to explain to people what was going on because they thought I was a little weird. I said, I'm sorry, but every once in a while it looks like you're all coming at me.
Wow. And again, it's being aware of those things and recognizing it. Now, you mentioned your course. Let's talk about the course a little bit, and then I will let you back to your day. But what's the name of the course, and who should be taking it?
The vices of mobility devices, again, limiting or preventing the pain, the daily pain and disability of mobility device misuse. And it can be family who have somebody who's got a device that they don't think might fit, or they're going to get a device and they might want to know more about the devices and how it can hurt or harm somebody if they're not using it correctly. It goes into far more than just device use, because to me, you need to start at least at about 40 to 45, really starting to take care of yourself, because your skeletal system is going to be what keeps you upright. And if that isn't maintained, you're going to get the osteoporosis and all that. And it goes into a whole thing about how osteoporosis feeds into the disability and the problems with the devices. It also talks about foot supports and the importance of foot supports, because I see, God, 9 out of 10 seniors, when they're in their home, wear these flat slippers. And the flat slippers aren't supporting their feet, which isn't supporting their bones, which isn't supporting their joints, et cetera, et cetera. And it just causes a deterioration and a forward leaning and everything else. So it goes into all this because if it's a family member who's reading it, they learn how to keep supporting themselves before they get there.
Right.
As well as their loved one that may be getting there now. So it's about preventing it if you can, if you're young enough, and mitigating it if you're older.
Awesome. Well, in the interest of time, I want to thank you for coming out and sharing. How can people connect with you? How can they learn more about your book or your course?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, Linda Mac Dougall, and I have my own website, which is loveyourlongevity.com, and that has the book. I have just talked to somebody about putting up the images for the course and things like that as well. So that will be there shortly, but the course is on mastermind.com, which is Tony Robbins' site. One of his many sites, I'm sure.
One of many, one of my favorites, but yes, so on mastermind.com. All right,
Yes.
and for anybody who wants, we'll have Linda's contact details in the show notes. So Linda, I want to thank you for taking the time to hang out with me and my listeners today.
Well, I thank you. I want people to know these things because it's super important.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.